So let's discuss some background information on the Wealth Score Academy. Let's discuss how this academy came about. About 14 years ago, I started in the credit repair industry at Vivix Credit Solutions. I started as a credit consultant and started to review hundreds of credit reports for clients that would come into our office for consultations. And I noticed after creating a profile for clients, which clients needed particular credit report adjustments or corrections, which clients needed specific credit rebuilding tactics and techniques, I noticed that there was a disparity in approvals for clients that had similar background information. And what I mean by similar background information is a client that has been in the credit bureau for a similar amount of time. Let's say a client's been in the credit bureau for 15 years. A client has been on their job for 5 years. That client makes $40,000. That client has a 680 credit score. That client has a college degree. That client has 12 trade lines, 3 revolving accounts, 9 installment accounts. And what I noticed was clients that were similar in that regard. I would send all of these clients to the same creditors to rebuild their credit by creating an account. And I noticed that there were wildly dissimilar approval amounts. Some clients would get approved for $1,500, and some clients would get approved for $3,500. And I always wanted to know, well, what was the distinction that clients with higher approvals with this same similar background and the clients that had lower approvals with similar background. So I started keeping a dossier of all the approvals and categorizing the clients. And what I noticed was that there were some distinctions that were very minor, but had a major impact on the approval or the underwriting process for an approval. For instance, I noticed that a client that lived in a certain zip code, with the same background as far as history on their credit report, but different zip codes. I noticed that their zip codes had distinctions such as the value of the property in the zip code, the education, the average education levels in that zip code, the average crime rate in that zip code, the average income in that zip code. All right. And these distinctions were affecting the underwriting of approvals and loans. And I found that there was a consumer file or a data report called LexisNexis that was gathering this kind of information and selling this information to creditors. Okay, so the creditors would have this insight, which was not on the credit reports, but was from this data report, LexisNexis. So I then created a distinction between a credit report, which of course the creditors would access to review your credit application. And then there's a distinction for a consumer report, which is a report that the consumer requests from the big 3 credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, for their personal review, but not for an application for credit. That's a consumer report. And then these additional reports I considered to be consumer files. They were files that were created by private organizations that collected this data for the use of mitigating risk for creditors, banks, or lending institutions. And this information has started to play a major role in the approvals and the approval process for credit applications. It also has some impact on employment, whether you could get a job. It impacts your insurance rates. It impacts your health insurance rates, your auto insurance rates. and a slew of other things that we're going to talk about in the Wealth Score Academy. So essentially, you're going to learn that there are data reports that are potentially capping or reducing or restricting your credit or the ability for you to leverage yourself. And we're going to discuss that more in some of the modules coming up.